I want to warmly welcome everyone to tonight's event, the formal launch of our general election campaign in Waterford. You are all very welcome. This election is a very important one for the people of Waterford and for the people of Ireland. Our country is in a real crisis and we need real change. This election is about the future of our country. The people we elect will make decisions that will determine the future of Ireland and the future of our economy. Tonight, Sinn Féin in Waterford formally launches its campaign. We will set out our ideas and proposals. We will set out our positive agenda for change. Our first speaker tonight is the Sinn Féin Vice President, Lou McDonald. Lou is a key leadership figure in the party and was a key negotiator during the recent peace talks. She led the party's Lisbon campaign and exposed the lies of other parties. She is a candidate in the general election in the constituency of Dublin Central. We wish her all the best in her efforts. Our main speaker is the person we have chosen to contest the election here in Waterford. That person is Councillor David Cullinane. David has huge electoral and political experience, and despite being in his early 30s, he has fought 2 general elections, this is his third, 2 local elections and a European election. He has served as an elected member of Waterford City Council for nearly 7 years. Like Mary Lou, David was involved with the Sinn Féin negotiating team, taking him to Stormont, Downing Street and St Andrews. David is married to Kathleen Funchion, who is also a candidate in the upcoming election. We also wish Kathleen the very best of luck in her campaign. Tonight is the official launch of our campaign. We are going into this election to win a seat. We have the policies, the ideas and the motivation to bring about real change in Ireland. We are fortunate to have an excellent candidate in David Cullinane. It is our job, all of us, to help get him elected. I now call on our first speaker, Sinn Féin Vice President Lou McDonald. Thank you.
Well, dús bhhail namará go bhfuil mé anasásta a bheith ansa libse anocht. I'm really very pleased to have been invited here this evening to be part of the launch of the Sinn Féin campaign here in Waterford, and to give my wholehearted endorsement and support to my colleague and friend, David Cullinane. I don't think you could overstate the importance of the forthcoming election. I don't think anybody sitting in this room is under any illusions about the level and depth of damage that has been inflicted on this state over the past decade and more. The dole queues, almost 500,000 people on the live register, the return to mass emigration, and the despair and doom in some quarters tell you everything that you need to know about that. It's astonishing that in the years since the 2007 election, the last general election, that things have gone so horribly wrong. And I think for a lot of people who assumed that we would surf the wave of the Celtic Tiger forever, that when things came unstuck, it came as a huge shock, economically, socially, and also emotionally for people and for communities. The saying goes that we're at where we're at, a phrase that I think should be banned from political debate, but how and ever. The truth is that we're at a crossroads. And when the people go to the polling stations in a couple of weeks' time, they're going to have to make a number of very critical judgments and calls. The first judgment that people will be asked to make is whether or not they wish to see business as usual, change one Fianna Fáil-led government for a Fine Gael-led government, or whether they are up for genuine root and branch change, reform, transformation and renewal. I know from talking to people all across the country that there is a deepening sense that business as usual isn't going to cut it in the current climate. I think people have that deep-seated feeling that things in this country need to change. Yes, we need to change our approach in terms of economic policy and taxation policy. We need to move from a situation where government is run in the interests of vested interests and minorities to a situation where we are governed genuinely in the common good and with a view to the common welfare. I think people have that sense. That's what they're telling me, certainly. But the challenge on election day, when people go to the polling booths, will be to translate that general sense of change into a very specific action of voting for a candidate and a party that can, in real terms, deliver just that. I believe in David Cullinane as an individual, as a man, as a father, as a political activist, as a person committed to Waterford, that you have a person who is sincere, capable, and energetic in terms of delivering that change. I'm certain of that. I'm also certain that Sinn Féin alone is the only political party that has put forward an alternative based on fairness, an alternative that says you don't get us out of our economic mess by sticking your hand in the pocket of those on welfare or low incomes or middle incomes. A party that says you do not inflict misery on the masses to bail out rich private investors and continental banks. We are the only political party who has consistently made that argument. And we are the political party that has brought forward the alternative, because we all know that we have to deal with the budget deficit. We know that. Our approach is not to hack away at people's incomes and services, but rather to get ourselves out of our difficulties through a strategy of economic growth. We need to get people back to work. People who had started apprenticeships and got laid off, or people who have 20 and 30 years service and got laid off. Skilled people, talented people, energetic people need to be put back to work here in Waterford and across the country. And Sinn Féin's plans are costed, they're hard-headed, they're pragmatic, they're deliverable. And they're different from the same old same approach of not just Fianna Fáil and the Greens, but equally Fine Gael and, sadly, the Labour Party. So we in this campaign are inviting people to put their ballot paper where their mouth is. If you want change, if you're serious about that, come out and back the party and the candidate, David Cullinane, who can realistically deliver that for you. The IMF are now in. The IMF called the shots. We were told that they came in to bail us out. And this sort of conjures up a notion of, the knight coming in on the white horse to save the damsel in distress. Of course, they're here not to save anybody's distress. They're here to make sure that very wealthy bankers get paid off. And they're here to ensure that you and I and our families and generations of our families pick up the tab for that. And we are saying very clearly that that is not acceptable, that Sinn Féin will not tolerate that, and that we will not accept a scenario where private debt, the debt of the greedy, is heaped upon the shoulders of the citizens. That will not happen on our watch. Other parties may quibble. Other parties will tell you, well, we'll renegotiate the interest rate. We'll see what we can do. The interest rate is a detail. The bigger issue is the level of debt. And in the course of this campaign, we need to challenge those political parties who say that the IMF are an unfortunate necessity, who say that we have to accept this debt. We need to challenge them to explain to the people of Ireland how precisely we pay for that debt. Let them come forward with their figures. We've seen the misery inflicted by cuts in the region of 6 billion this year, and it's hit people really, really hard. That is only a taster of what is to come if the current government policy is pursued.